On the day my younger sister eloped with the young Marquis, I stopped her. I advised her. If you marry him, you'll be his wife. If he truly loves you, he'll come to ask for your hand in marriage. Later, my sister became the general's wife and had an affair with bandits, killing my entire family. Only then did I realize that she had hated me all her life because of the young Marquis. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day they eloped. This time, I didn't stop her, but my sister regretted it. Welcome to my channel. If you like this story, please click to subscribe. There are more wonderful stories waiting for you to listen to. Chapter 1. A group of ruthless bandits broke into the Lin mansion on a dark night. Under the gloomy moonlight, they slaughtered 13 members of the Lin family. I shielded my daughter with my body, preventing her from making a sound. Hey! There are 2 more hiding here. They searched every corner of the mansion and found me and my daughter in the cellar. My 3-year-old daughter was stabbed through the heart in front of me. Mother, don't cry. Nan doesn't feel pain. They bound my hands and feet and ravaged my body. After an unknown amount of time, the bandits left in frustration. My younger sister, the general's wife, was resting at an inn nearby. I recognized the faces of those men. I must avenge my family. I clung to life, clutching my daughter's lifeless body, limping forward. The once smooth path was now treacherous, and I fell countless times along the way. When I finally arrived, I saw my sister flirting with someone. That man was none other than the leader of the bandits who had slaughtered my entire family. The blood in my body froze instantly. After he left, I rushed to my sister's side and slapped her across the face. Lin Chinga, have you lost your mind? The 17th day of the 6th month of the year of Tianqi. What? The 17th day of the 6th month of the year of Tianqi. Sister, don't you remember? That was the day Huayan came to ask for my hand in marriage. If you hadn't been jealous of me and prevented me from being with Huayan, I would have become the Marquis's wife long ago. Instead, I ended up marrying a stinking man who doesn't understand women. My sister smiled coldly, her eyes filled with hatred. I was stunned for a moment before I remembered who Huayan was. Huayan. Su Huayan. The young Marquis of the Marquis of Yunlin. I thought my sister had given up on him on the day of his wedding. I thought my sister and the general were a happy couple and had long since let go of the past. It turned out that she had kept it in her heart all along. She had just endured it and waited for an opportunity to take revenge. But why? If you hate me, that's one thing. But why harm my entire family? Nan is only 3 years old. She was still thinking about you yesterday, saying she wanted to give you the Eastern Pearl as a birthday gift. My sister froze for a moment, then screamed hysterically. Lin Qinghuan, you interfered with my feelings and ruined my happiness for a lifetime. How dare you still have a happy family? I stared at the stranger before me, unable to believe what was happening. The bond between sisters couldn't even compare to a man. Sister, do you know? What? I spoke softly, and Lin Chinga didn't hear clearly, leaning in curiously. A golden hairpin pierced her chest, and blood gushed out. I was also stabbed to death by the soldiers who had rushed over. When I opened my eyes again, my husband was in the study, asking me if I was cold. Wife, it's getting cold. Have some ginger tea to warm yourself. I forced myself to stay calm and held his hand. Our fingertips touched briefly, and the familiar warmth reminded me that this wasn't a dream. I had been reborn. I was a bit dazed when I heard my husband speak hesitantly. My wife, Chinga, just asked me for 5,000 taels of silver. She usually asks for silver as well, but never in such a manner. When I asked her where the silver was going, she stammered and refused to answer. This is rather suspicious. I glanced at the date on the ledger, the 17th day of the 6th month of the Tianqi year. How could it not be suspicious? Today was the day Lin Qingge and the young Marquis were supposed to elope. Before long, Lin Qingge rushed over to make a false accusation. Xia Xiqing, I knew you had ulterior motives and couldn't stand our sisterly bond. When I asked you for some silver, you reported it to my sister? The money my sister earns isn't for me to spend? Are you going to give it to you? A worthless son-in-law? After saying that, she leaned close to me and pouted. I swatted her hand away. Lin Qingge, you're past the age of marriage. How can you speak so recklessly? Sister, you're yelling at me. You're yelling at me for a husband? Father, mother, why did you abandon Qingge and leave me behind? Why didn't you take me with you? Now I have to endure my sister's mistreatment. Lin Qingge pretended to cry, her sobs echoing through the air. Lin Qingge was frail and often ill. When her parents were alive, they always doted on her. Even in their final words, they spoke of her. Qinghuan, your eldest sister is like a mother to you. Qingge is your only family in this world. You must take good care of her. For those words, I waited 13 years. Lin Qingge was frail and often ill. I traveled across the entire Great Qing Empire, seeking the best doctors to treat her. Lin Qingge had delicate skin, so I specially traveled to Shu province to purchase silk brocade worth 500 taels per bolt. I feared that marrying into another household would cause my younger sister to suffer, so I arranged for a husband to marry into our family. Even after giving birth to Nan Nan, my love for Lin Qingge remained unchanged. Yet she betrayed me for a man, colluding with bandits to kill my entire family. On the other hand, Xia Xiqing risked his life to protect me when the bandits entered the house, and was stabbed over 10 times while trying to save me. The spurting blood splattered on my skin, burning me so severely that I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Xia Xiqing, seeing this, bowed his head in apology. When my parents were alive, Lin Qingge was always like this. She would cry, and everything would be brought to her. She waited for me to bow my head as usual. But this time, she was wrong. Lin Qingge, if you truly believe I've treated you harshly and caused you suffering, and you want to go cry to your parents and have them scold me, then go ahead. My tone was cold, and I looked at Lin Qingge as if she were a stranger. Seeing this, Lin Qingge dared not cause any more trouble and ran out of the study crying. This time, she was truly crying. After Lin Qingge left, I instructed Xia Xiqing to summon the managers of all the households. From now on, without my token, no matter what Lin Qingge says, you must not give her any money. Upon hearing this, the manager's eyes lit up in astonishment. Master, do you know how long we've been waiting for this? They rushed to me, each complaining about their own grievances. It was then that I realized what Lin Qingge had been doing behind my back. She had been using her influence to protect her close friends, going around the Lin family's shops to run up debts. Lin Qingge had threatened the managers not to report this to me, or else she would accuse them of slandering her and have them expelled from the Lin family. I rubbed my temples. Had someone compile a ledger of Lin Qingge's expenses and handed it to me, then added 200 taels of silver to each shopkeeper's account as compensation. 200 taels of silver was half a year's wages for the Lin family shopkeepers. They gratefully accepted it. But compared to the money, they valued my attitude toward Lin Qingge even more. Merchants have keen instincts. In corners unknown to Lin Qingge, the sky protecting her was beginning to collapse. Lin Qingge cried in her room for a while. Seeing that I didn't go to comfort her, she ordered her maidservant to demand silver from the various shops. The maidservant was turned away. Lin Qingge didn't believe it and went to ask in person. The result was the same. She returned empty-handed. Back at the Lin mansion, Lin Qingge started to rage. She didn't even blink as she threw the pair of 2-tael glass bottles on the ground, shattering them into pieces. You bastards! Taking advantage of your power. When I become the Marquis's wife, you'll beg me on your knees to spend your money. But I won't even look at you. I didn't go inside, but listened outside the door. When Lin Chinga went to Bema Temple to pray for good fortune, she happened to meet the injured Shuangwen and took him to the pharmacy to be treated. She was beautiful and had a melodious voice, and Shuangwen fell in love with her at first sight. However, Shuangwen was already engaged to the daughter of the Minister of Rites. Moreover, the Lin family was merely a wealthy merchant family. As a scholar, how could Shuangwen possibly marry Lin Chinga? When I found out about their feelings, I didn't even hesitate to refuse. I explained the situation of the Marquis's family to Lin Chinga. The young Marquis of Yonlin only sounded impressive, but his family relied on his grandmother's dowry to maintain their appearance. They were living off their wealth and would surely suffer if she married into that family. You are used to eating delicacies and wearing fine silk. How will the Marquis's family support you? Lin Chinga didn't think so. It's precisely because the Marquis's family is short of money that I can make them grateful by bringing my dowry with me. No matter how hard I tried to persuade her, I couldn't match Shuangwen's words. Chinga, my grandmother opposes our marriage. But don't worry. I'll elope with you. Those words made Lin Chinga feel that Shuangwen was deeply in love with her. If he marries me as a wife but treats me as a concubine, he must truly love me. He will surely ask for my hand in marriage. Lin Chinga, who had never managed a household, knew nothing of the cost of daily necessities. She didn't realize that love could be worn away by the mundane details of life. She only knew Shuangwen's sweet words and remembered their love that moved heaven and earth. Lin Chinga had saved some private money, which she hadn't touched. Instead, she took the jewelry I had given her in the past to the pawn shop and pawned it for 2,000 taels of silver. While the Lin mansion was asleep, Lin Chinga pushed open the back door and ran toward her Shuangwen. Onling, I've come to marry you. I stood by the window and witnessed everything. Xie Xiqing looked in the direction where the two were going and asked me, "Wife?" She married him as his wife. But you're just his concubine. Are you really not going after him? This is Lin Chinga's choice, and she must bear the consequences. 2 months later, Shuangwen was taken back to the Marquis's mansion. I heard that he was followed by a delicate wife. Shuangwen knelt before the old matriarch and swore to marry that woman. The two sides argued fiercely, but the old matriarch refused to budge. She merely had a guest room prepared and gave Shuangwen 3 months to make up his mind. For this, Lin Chinga specially sent someone to deliver a message to me to show off. Lin Qinghuan, I am not one to forget past kindness. I am grateful for all the kindness you showed me in the past. Soon, Huayan will come to the Lin family to propose marriage and take me as his wife. Prepare a dowry of 100 carriages for me. Make sure that I become the most glamorous bride in the capital. Take advantage of the fact that I am not yet the Marquis's wife, and there is still a chance to turn things around. Xie Xiqing finished reading the last sentence with a dark look on his face. He looked at me with concern. My wife. We should discuss this matter carefully. Carefully discuss? What a load of nonsense. I tore the letter into pieces with my hands, knelt before my parents' spirits, and burned it for them. Xie Xiqing's brows relaxed, and he sighed in relief. I am Lin Chinga's only younger sister. He feared that in the presence of our blood relatives, I might lose my usual composure. Fortunately, I did not. But he did not know. The person who loved Lin Chinga the most was already dead. He died in that blood-soaked night, killed by Lin Chinga with her own hands. 3 days later, I brought back a young beggar who had sold himself to bury his father. That beggar was none other than Lu Sun, the general whom Lin Chinga had married in her previous life. Before he rose to prominence, Lu Sun had been a homeless beggar. He got into a fight with a wealthy merchant over the burial of his foster father, accidentally killed the man, and was exiled to the frontier. By a twist of fate, he ended up in the military. fought his way through battles, and became a general. Lin Qingge despised his lowly origins and deemed him inferior to Su Huyan in terms of nobility. But I have seen Lu Xun and know that he would rather endure humiliation than betray the kindness of his foster father. Such a man of honor and loyalty is far superior to the self-proclaimed playboy Su Huyan. I paid 20 taels of silver to bury Lu Xun's foster father and brought him back to the Lin mansion, hiring him as the martial arts instructor. Lu Xun had traveled the martial arts world with his foster father for many years, learning genuine skills. On one occasion, he fought with such ferocity that he charged at the enemy commander with a silver spear, striking him down and sending the Turks into a panic. They dubbed him the Demon General. I do not expect Lu Xun to train the Lin mansion servants into warriors like himself. It is sufficient for them to master basic self-defense skills. Thanks to Lu Xun, the bodyguards in the mansion grew stronger day by day. One night, I heard commotion outside the door. Those familiar bandits had arrived early. They used the moonlight to sneak into the Lin mansion. But this time, under Lu Xun's guidance, the Lin family had made thorough preparations. As soon as they entered the gate, they fell into the traps that had been set. Those at the bottom were pierced by broken blades, bleeding profusely. Those above tried to climb out but were struck by stones, shattering their skulls. Kill them all! Leave not a single bandit alive. A torrential rain poured down. It was impossible to tell where the blood ended and the tears began. Boom! A thunderclap rang out. Lightning struck beside me, and I suddenly realized that the people who had been smiling and killing the bandits alongside me were now unrecognizable, lying in pools of blood. Zong Shu, Fu Bo, Chi Kei, my husband, wife, don't be afraid. It's just a dream, a nightmare. Xia Xiqing lit the candles in the house and gently woke me up. It was just a dream. I clutched my chest, gasping for breath, and it took me a long time to come to my senses from the nightmare. Xia Xiqing buried his head in my neck, his voice muffled. Wife, do you know how scary you were just now? For a moment, I thought you wanted to kill someone. Wife, if there's anything on your mind, just tell me. I'm your husband, I'll bear it with you. Wife, I'm not the jealous type. If you truly like that Lu Xun fellow, I don't mind. I had just regained my composure when that sentence startled me into sitting up. What? What did you say? People on the street are saying that you've been bewitched by that Lu Xun kid, and that you want to take him as your lover. I said. Why does Lu Xun look at me so strangely? They must think I'm up to something. This won't do. The next morning, I found Lu Xun and laid it all out. Lu Xun, don't panic. I have no ill intentions toward you. It's just that my parents passed away early, leaving me and my younger sister. My sister has been sickly since childhood, and I worry about her suffering. After I came of age, I gave everything I had to my sister, but she eventually abandoned me for a man. When I saw you willing to endure humiliation to repay your foster father's kindness, I knew you were a man of honor. I also realized that not everyone in this world is heartless and treacherous. So, Lu Xun, can I deny you as my sworn brother? Lu Xun paused for a moment, a flash of understanding in his eyes. He then bowed to me. Sister, please accept my bow. I made a grand affair of taking Lu Xun as my sworn brother, and everyone knew about it. The news spread quickly and soon reached Lin Qingge's ears. On the day of the banquet, Lin Qingge arrived with 2 maidservants. She walked up and slapped Lu Xun across the face. Who do you think you are, daring to claim kinship with the Lin family? The guests I had invited were all prominent figures in the city. With Lin Qingge causing such a disturbance, everyone's faces turned awkward, and the mood soured. Lin Qingge, who had been spoiled rotten, had never learned to read people's expressions. Seeing the silence at the table, she thought everyone was afraid of her. Lin Chinga grew even more arrogant and raised her hand to overturn the table in front of her. Back when she was in the Lin family, Lin Chinga was just a bit naive. But Su Huayan's vow to marry her in front of the old lady of the Marquis's mansion made her believe that she could become the Marquis's wife. And she became even more arrogant. Not to mention Lu Xun. Even the few Confucian scholars present were not worthy of her attention. When she saw me, Lin Chinga became even more smug. Sister, I haven't seen you in a few months. And your taste has really gotten worse. You'll marry anyone. Lu Xun is loyal and righteous, certain treacherous. Backstabbing scum naturally can't compare. Lin Chinga had come to intimidate Lu Xun. But she didn't expect me to publicly humiliate her in front of others. She was furious. Stormed off angrily. And before leaving, didn't forget to leave a parting shot. Go ahead and leave. Lin Qinghuan. One day, you'll beg me on your knees. After Lin Chinga left, I raised my cup to apologize to the guests present. Lu Xun looked at me with an apologetic expression. Sister, it's my fault for causing a rift between you sisters. Any relationship can only last if it's mutual. Lu Xun, if it were you, would you want to abandon the parents who neglected you? Or the godfather who raised you for 18 years? Lu Xun didn't say anything, but I could tell from his eyes that he understood. Lin Chinga didn't understand why. So when she returned to the Marquis's residence, she bought a new outfit. As soon as she stepped through the front gate, she heard the old lady of the Marquis's residence ask her, "Future lady of the Marquis's residence, you really are very grand." Lin Chinga thought the old lady was praising her and smiled shyly. "Grandmother, you finally acknowledge my identity." One sentence left the old lady speechless. She was used to dealing with clever people, so it was rare to encounter someone so stupid. She tapped her dragon-headed cane heavily on the ground. "If you still want to stay in the Marquis mansion, then shut yourself in your room and reflect on your mistakes today." Lin Chinga racked her brains but couldn't figure out what she had done wrong. The old lady ordered that Lin Chinga not be allowed to eat. Lin Chinga waited and waited until Su Huayan finally returned to the mansion. As soon as she heard the news about Su Huayan, she rushed to him and pulled his hand coquettishly. "On Ling, what do you think grandmother means by this?" Su Huayan wasn't exactly a genius, but he was a bit smarter than Lin Chinga. After hearing Lin Chinga's words, he really wanted to call her an idiot. But facing that beautiful face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Instead, he embraced her and explained the situation. "Among the guests your elder sister invited to today's banquet is the great scholar Jiang Huizhou. This man despises the arrogant behavior of high-ranking officials." By this point, Lin Chinga could understand perfectly well. She said tearfully, "Lin Qinghuan never mentioned any of this to me. Chinga has such a pure heart. How could your sister be so cruel?" Lin Chinga nodded in agreement. Su Huayan was right. I had deliberately lured Lin Chinga there. But I didn't want her to be humiliated in front of others, I just wanted to sever her connection with Lu Xun. Lin Chinga was delicate and fragile. The kind of beauty that men find irresistible. I remember that Lu Xun and Lin Chinga's feelings for each other began when Lu Xun was in dire straits. And Lin Chinga threw him a piece of meat pie she had grown tired of eating. That piece of pie saved Lu Xun's life when he was on the brink of death. Lin Chinga's delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly, leaving an indelible impression on Lu Xun's heart. After he became a general, he went out of his way to arrange a grand wedding procession and came to ask for her hand in marriage. But now, it was I who buried Lu Xun's father. And it was I who took him in as my younger brother to spare him from a life of hardship. Without any prior debt of gratitude, Lin Chinga was nothing more than an outsider who caused a scene at Lu Xun's wedding banquet. A selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant woman. A farce that completely severed any possibility between them. Lin Chinga's future prospects were shattered. By her own hand. Shattered by her arrogance. Thanks to Su Huayan, Lin Chinga sent many more letters. Every word was filled with insults, accusing me of having evil intentions. Xia Xiqing only read one before he couldn't continue. The rest were piled up in the study. I didn't have time to read Lin Qingge's letters. The shop was busy with business. Judging by the time, Lu Sun should be heading to the military camp to enlist. Ah, Sun. I know you are highly skilled. If you were born in turbulent times, you would surely be a local warlord. Now that the borders are in turmoil, it is a time when people are needed. The Lin mansion is just a small household, but it can be your support. However, it must not become your shackles. Go. Ah, Sun. When you return, I will be at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion to celebrate your victory with a feast. Lu Sun is human, and humans have desires and ambitions. Although life in the Lin mansion was comfortable, Lu Sun found it hard to adjust. Within the mansion, he had no want for food or clothing, and everyone in the Lin household treated him too well. This made him lose his resolve. Lu Sun was an eagle soaring through the skies. He should have seized the opportunity to rise higher. Over the past month, he had been searching for a chance to explain himself to me, but the words were on the tip of his tongue, and he hesitated. Such thoughts sounded too ungrateful. He never expected that I would see through his intentions and understand his aspirations. Lu Sun bowed respectfully. I will not disappoint your expectations. Older sister. The military camp was far away, so I only saw him off to the city gates. Lu Sun. The rest of the journey is up to you. Lu Sun left, carrying 2 bundles. The bundles were filled with dried food, meat jerky, outer garments, and 20 taels of silver. There was also a bronze breastplate. On the battlefield, swords and spears have no eyes. Lu Sun must live safely. He must become a general and return to protect the Lin family. Lu Sun left, but the training in the mansion could not stop. The Lin mansion was like a river, flowing calmly and slowly. The years were peaceful, and nothing could change that. Far away in the Marquis mansion, Lin Qingge was not so lucky. Lin Qingge had been staying at the Marquis's residence for 2 months. 2 months was not enough to change a person, but it was enough to change a relationship. Lin Qingge clearly felt that Su Huayan's attitude towards her was becoming more and more perfunctory. In the past, when the Marquis's wife would argue with her and take the opportunity to mock her, she would just throw herself into Su Huayan's arms, and Su Huayan would argue with the Marquis's wife. But recently, when she complained to Su Huayan that the Marquis's wife had mocked her for coming from a lowly family and not knowing etiquette, Su Huayan didn't comfort her. Not only that, he actually spoke up for the Marquis's wife. Qingge, no matter how she scolds you, she is my mother and your future mother-in-law. Can't you understand that? Stop bothering me with such trivial matters. Lin Qingge was so angry that she scratched Su Huayan's face. The next day, Su Huayan went to court with his injuries and was teased by his colleagues, which made him very angry. When he returned home in the evening, the Marquis's wife spoke ill of Lin Qingge in front of him again. I told you, a merchant girl from a lowly family wouldn't know anything about etiquette. She made you look so bad in court. You shouldn't have. Before the Marquis's wife could finish, Su Huayan interrupted her. Mother, Qingge is the wife I have chosen for myself. In the future, when she marries into the Marquis's family, I don't want to see you 2 women fighting. For my sake, please be more tolerant of Qingge. Okay? Su Huayan also agreed with the Marquis's wife. However, he still couldn't let go of Lin Qingge. What's more, he was a soft-hearted person who couldn't stand being treated harshly. Lin Qingge heard everything the mother and son said outside the door, ignoring the murderous glares of the maids and the Marquis's wife. She hugged Su Huayan in front of everyone and called him Onlang. Onlang. Su Huayan stepped in to mediate, and Lin Qingge and the Marquis's wife finally got along for a while. Lin Qingge listened to Su Huayan and treated the marquis's wife like her own mother. She served her tea, massaged her legs, copied sutras, and chanted Buddhist prayers for her. These small favors could be done by any maid. So how could the marquis's wife remember Lin Qingge's kindness? With the maid's reminder, Lin Qingge finally remembered to show respect to the marquis's wife. However, she had little money left from her elopement. As Lin Qingge was worrying, she heard Su Huayan say, "Your eldest sister is a famous wealthy merchant in the city. If you don't have money here, how could she not have any there? But I offended my eldest sister when I was with Onling earlier. You are sisters from the same mother. And sisters are close. If you are isolated and helpless in the marquis's mansion, and people bully you, how can she just stand by and do nothing?" The implication was to use a ploy. Lin Qingge, upon hearing this, threw herself into Su Huyan's arms and pouted. "Onling, you're truly brilliant." The next day, just as dawn was breaking, Zhongshu heard someone knocking on the door. When he opened the door, he saw Lin Qingge, dressed in plain clothes, lying at the entrance. "Zhongshu." She fainted before she could finish speaking. Since she was a girl he had known since childhood, Zhongshu hesitated only for a moment before bringing her into the mansion. After much consideration, Zhongshu decided to tell me about Lin Qingge. "Miss Lin, would you like to go see the second young miss?" When I arrived, Lin Qingge was lying in the side room, her face pale and gaunt, a sight I had never seen before. No wonder Zhongshu was so heartbroken. If it weren't for the pain of my family's massacre in my previous life, I too would be deeply moved by her desperate ploy. Upon seeing me, Lin Qingge deliberately rubbed her eyes, stared blankly for a moment, then clung tightly to me. "Sister, Qingge misses you so much. Sister." Her voice was filled with the joy of a long-awaited reunion. I said nothing, quietly waiting for Lin Qingge's next move. During this time, Zhongshu brought a bowl of seafood congee. Seeing this, Lin Qingge actually cried out, "Woo woo woo. Home is still the best. Big sister, you don't know how mean the people at the marquis's mansion are. They never give me a friendly look. Even to eat a bowl of seafood congee, I have to get permission from the old lady." Ahem. Second young lady. This seafood congee is for the eldest young lady. Your congee is here, Uncle Zhong said as he brought over a bowl of white congee. I took the seafood congee and drank it slowly. "Oh, isn't this the life you wanted? Back then, when I urged you to let go of Su Huyan, you said you'd rather eat plain congee for the rest of your life than be apart from Onling. Now that you're actually drinking plain congee, you don't want it anymore?" Lin Qingge's face turned slightly red, but she didn't argue with me like before. Instead, she began to sob. "Sister, I was wrong." Just as Zhongshu thought the sisters' relationship might improve, Lin Qingge spoke startlingly. "But sister, I'm carrying Onling's child. If you don't help me, Qingge has no way out but death. How do you want me to help you?" "Sister, I knew you were the best. Now the marquis's wife won't let me in because she looks down on me for being of low birth and unable to bring them any benefits. But I found out that the marquis's household relies on the dowry of the old lady for its expenses. If I bring a dowry that's bigger than hers, I'll definitely be able to control the marquis's household. Then I can use the marquis's influence to make friends with more high-ranking officials and the Lin family will have someone to rely on." "How much dowry do you want?" The old matriarch had 80 dowry items. As a junior, I shouldn't ask for more than her. "Let's just make it 68 for good luck." Before she could finish, I slapped her across the face. "Lin Qingge, have you lost your mind? You dare to elope without a matchmaker and conceive a child in secret? Do you know how others will look at you if this child is born? How will they think of the Lin family's daughters? You have no shame. And you want the Lin family's daughters to share your disgrace? Lin Chinga was stunned by the slap. She knew I had always pampered her. As long as she played the victim in front of me, I would feel sorry for her and grant her requests. Before coming here, she had considered every possible outcome. She thought I might get angry, like I used to, and nag her endlessly. Even in the worst-case scenario, I would consider her pregnancy and think of the child in her womb, and agree to a dowry of 10 carriages. She never imagined I would hit her. Sister, I'm your own flesh and blood. How could you hit me? I guess I didn't hit you hard enough, which is why you've become so spoiled. Fine. Fine. This family has no place for me. Today, none of you can stop me. Let me throw myself to my death at the Lin mansion. When I reach the underworld, I'll show our parents how you treated me. Lin Chinga rushed toward the pillar. She had thought that even if I didn't stop her, Zhong Shu, who had watched over her since childhood, would intervene. But to her surprise, Zhong Shu didn't come over. Lin Chinga was furious. But she had already said everything she wanted to say. She tilted her head and collapsed against the pillar. She slept until evening. Lin Chinga hadn't slept so soundly in a long time. It felt so good she didn't want to wake up. When she opened her eyes and saw me sitting by the bed, she started causing a scene again. Lin Qinghuan, now that you see me and the baby in my womb are safe and sound, are you disappointed? Lin Chinga, stop pretending. The doctor just took your pulse, you're fine. And you're not pregnant. I know exactly what your purpose is. Lin Qinghuan, do you think I look like a clown? Is this amusing? Shadows flickered outside the door as people from the mansion gathered. Seeing this, Lin Chinga changed her expression and slapped herself across the face. It's all my fault. Sister, please, just help Chinga this once. Lin Chinga threatened me in a voice only she and I could hear. Even if you don't help me, I'll ruin your reputation. I'll make sure everyone in the mansion knows what kind of person you are. I followed her lead and opened the door in front of everyone, letting Xia Xiqing read aloud the letter Lu Sun had sent. Every word was filled with Lu Sun's longing for the Lin family. Lin Chinga, do you know why I took Lu Sun as my sworn brother? Because he is loyal and righteous. Unlike you, who is heartless and treacherous. Who are you trying to fool? Lin Chinga refused to admit defeat. So I had Xia Xiqing read a few more letters. Every word was filled with insults and contempt. The servants couldn't bear to listen anymore. Lin Chinga, does this sound familiar? These are the letters you sent me. They contain mockery, insults, humiliation, anger, and scolding, but there is no trace of concern or worry from a family member. How dare you call yourself my relative and demand a dowry from me? Do you even deserve it? From now on, no one is to open the door for Lin Chinga without my permission. I had someone throw all the clothes and jewelry Lin Chinga had used in the mansion back to her. As for the money she had saved up, it had already been confiscated by me. By this point, the people of the Lin mansion could see that there was no possibility of reconciliation between me and Lin Chinga. The people of the Marquis's mansion didn't know the ins and outs of the situation. They only saw the furniture and furnishings being transported to the Marquis's mansion and thought that Lin Chinga had become rich. So they all fawned over her to curry favor. The maids served her attentively, waiting for Lin Chinga to reward them with a few golden melon seeds. They waited and waited for a month. Not to mention golden melon seeds. They didn't even get a single silver coin. They started gossiping, saying that Lin Chinga was stingy and poor but pretended to be rich. When Lin Chinga heard this, she almost tore the maid's mouth apart. The maid was no pushover either and deliberately went to complain to the Marquis's wife. The Marquis's wife already disliked Lin Chinga, so now she had an excuse to take a big chunk of Lin Chinga's wealth and take her cloud brocade. Lin Chinga's food and clothing in the Lin family were far better than those in the Marquis's family. How could the Marquis's wife ever have enjoyed such a life? Having gotten the cloud brocade, she began to think of ways to take things from Lin Chinga's room. Su Huyan was busy with official duties and had no time to deal with such trivial matters. Lin Chinga watched as the jewelry in her jewelry box dwindled, and her lips swelled into 2 large blisters. If you're so attached to these, why not just give the lady 2 pieces of jewelry? It would at least fulfill the duty of a daughter-in-law. A month ago, Lin Chinga would have scoffed at such a suggestion. But times had changed, and Lin Chinga knew that I would not spoil her anymore. Without the Lin family, she could only hope to marry into the Marquis family as soon as possible. She could no longer afford to offend the Marquis' wife. She was counting on the Marquis' wife to support her. The next day, Lin Chinga got up early and specially invited the Marquis' wife to go shopping. Why not take advantage of a free opportunity? The Marquis' wife looked reluctant, but she was delighted inside. With each of them harboring their own ulterior motives, they rode in the carriage all the way to Phoenician. Phoenician was the Lin family's jewelry shop. The young shop assistant at Fenglishuan was very enthusiastic. Not only did he explain the craftsmanship and materials used in the jewelry in detail, he also gave her some advice on how to match the jewelry with her clothes. Even the tea served was the finest Prerain Longjing. The Marquis' wife was very satisfied. She felt that even if Lin Chinga had 1,000 faults, it wasn't a bad thing to let her enjoy a little happiness. Lin Chinga was also very satisfied. Family matters should not be discussed outside the family, and the Lin family shop certainly did not know about the feud between her and Lin Chinga. She would not have to pay for the jewelry she bought today. After leaving the jewelry shop, she decided to take the Marquis' wife to the Lin family's clothing store and pastry shop. She would borrow flowers to offer to Buddha and save money wherever she could. Lin Chinga had changed. A girl who was not spoiled had to learn to be thrifty. In the blink of an eye, the Marquis' wife had already picked out 2 large boxes of pearl hairpins. The 2 finished eating the pastries and were about to leave. Before they reached the door, the young clerk who had served them stopped them, smiling and holding out his hand. Lady Marquis, these jewelry items total 876 taels of silver. For the sake of your second daughter, I'll knock off a few taels and make it 870 taels. Here's the money. The Marquis' wife remained calm and pulled Lin Chinga away. Lin Chinga covered her face and smiled. It's me, Lin Chinga, the second daughter of the Lin family trading company. The manager of Phoenician heard Lin Chinga's words as soon as he entered the door and laughed. There is only one owner of the Lin family trading company. Seeing this, the people around them began to gossip. The Marquis' wife felt extremely embarrassed, and the jewelry in her arms became extremely hot. I suddenly remembered that Huayan seems to have given me this jewelry, so I don't want it anymore. With that, the Marquis' wife returned the gold hairpin and pearl flowers in her hand. The young clerk checked them and found no problem, so he didn't say anything. However, a pair of jade bracelets carved with dragons and phoenixes had been bumped by the Marquis' wife, damaging them and making them unsellable. I'll wrap up this pair of bracelets for you. That'll be 200 taels of silver. 200 taels of silver? Lin Chinga's face turned ugly. I left in such a hurry today that I forgot my money bag at home. Put it on my account. Okay. Put it on the Marquis' account. Right? Hearing that it would be put on Su Huayan's account, the Marquis' wife's expression suddenly changed. Lin Chinga, what do you mean? You're using my son's salary to treat me. Borrowing flowers to offer to Buddha, right? Lin Chinga was also very angry. Seeing that the two were about to argue, a woman suddenly spoke up. Waiter, put this bracelet on my tab. Hearing someone come to her rescue, the Marquis' wife looked over. When she saw who it was, she was overjoyed. This woman was none other than Xia Jijun, the daughter of the Minister of Works, who was betrothed to Su Huayan. The Marquis' wife had always despised Lin Chinga. Now that Xia Jijun had come to her rescue, the little bit of goodwill she had toward Lin Chinga was gone. I heard that Jijun likes painting and calligraphy. I recently acquired a few paintings and calligraphy works in Hawaiian, but I don't know anything about art. Why don't you come to my residence and take a look at them for me? Hearing Jijun's name and seeing the expression on the Marquis's wife's face, Lin Chinga knew who she was. How could Lin Chinga not know who Jijun was? She was just about to say something sarcastic. Unexpectedly, the Marquis's wife pushed her aside. She watched as Xia Jijun got into the Marquis's carriage. Leaving her behind, Lin Chinga ran after her in a flurry. When she arrived at the Marquis's residence, Xia Jijun had already been sitting there for a while. Lin Chinga was furious. But before she could explode, she heard the Marquis's wife say, "You're from a lowly family and don't know any manners. Hurry up and make some tea for Miss Xia." Lin Chinga was full of anger but had nowhere to vent it. However, she also knew that this was the Marquis's residence and she couldn't act recklessly. By the time Xia Jijun had finished admiring the calligraphy and paintings, it was already dark. The Marquis's wife took the opportunity to invite her to stay for dinner. After much persuasion, she finally agreed to stay and waited for Su Huayan to return from court. "Huayan, this is Miss Xia. Won't you come and meet her?" The Marquis's wife deliberately sent Lin Chinga away to create an opportunity for Xia Jijun and Su Huayan. Su Huayan looked at Xia Jijun in front of him and was somewhat surprised. He had never imagined that the girl he was betrothed to would be so gentle, kind, and understanding. Back then, rumors in the capital had described the daughter of the Minister of Revenue as fierce and jealous, resembling a demon. Now that he had met her, he realized the rumors were untrue. Xia Jijun's demeanor was gentle and considerate, and her every smile and frown were charming and adorable. As he leaned closer, a fragrant scent wafted toward him. Su Huayan couldn't help but feel his heart race. Before he could have further interaction with Xia Jijun, he was interrupted by Lin Chinga, who had rushed over. Lin Chinga threw herself into his arms, crying with tears streaming down her face. Lin Chinga had burned her hand while making tea. "Huayan is not a doctor. What can he do?" the Marquis's wife said as she tried to pull Lin Chinga away. Su Huayan, who rarely spoke for Lin Chinga, did so this time. Instead, Xia Jijun, an outsider, spoke up for Lin Chinga. A burn is a serious matter for a woman. If not treated properly, it could leave a scar that would ruin her appearance for the rest of her life. "My family has some snow cream that won't leave a scar. Tomorrow, I will have someone deliver it to your residence." Xia Jijun's thoughtfulness made the Marquis's wife even more pleased. Su Huayan looked at Xia Jijun and suddenly had an idea. Marrying Xia Jijun as his wife, with one wife and one concubine, was not a bad choice. Lin Chinga noticed Su Huayan's attitude and gaze and flew into a rage on the spot. "Go away! The Marquis's mansion does not welcome you. And I don't need your false kindness. Who knows if you'll add something else to that ointment?" Su Huayan instinctively slapped Lin Chinga. Lin Chinga covered her face in disbelief and ran away. No one paid her any attention. Everyone gathered around Xia Jijun. As night fell, Su Huayan escorted Xia Jijun out of the mansion. He wanted to accompany her further, but Xia Jijun stopped him. "Young Marquis, please stop. I have my own carriage to take me home. We are both unmarried, so we must protect our reputations." After saying that, Xia Jijun got into the carriage and didn't look back. Su Huayan and the Marquis's wife were even more satisfied with Xia Jijun. She knew her place, knew when to advance and when to retreat, and valued a woman's reputation. A person like her was the perfect choice for the Marquis's wife. This mother and son thought they had it all figured out, but they had no idea how disgusted Xia Jijun felt back in the carriage. "Stop wiping. Your hands are red. Qing Huan, how come you're so wise? Yet your sister is as dull as a pig, unable to discern the coldness of human relationships?" Xia Jijun said with a sigh. It's a pity about those jade bracelets. What's so unfortunate about them? That pair of bracelets had flaws. It's just that the shopkeeper showed them too many jewelry items. And the two of them were blinded by greed. Sister Qinghuan, you are really good at scheming. No matter how good the scheming is, it's no match for human nature. The Marquis family is not good enough for you. Today, Xia Jijun stepped in to resolve the situation. It was all part of my plan. A month ago, Shi Ke was buying vegetables and noticed that the price of lotus root had skyrocketed at the vegetable stall. She thought the farmers were trying to overcharge her and started arguing with them. When I heard her complaining, I recalled that in my previous life, the price of lotus root had also risen sharply for a period. At the time, no one took it seriously. Everyone just assumed the farmers were trying to make a quick profit. A year later, when epidemics broke out and people were struggling to survive, everyone realized something was wrong. Lotus roots are produced in Azhou, a region rich in water resources. However, frequent floods had reduced lotus root production, and combined with transportation costs, they were sold at exorbitant prices. At the time, merchants were only concerned with speculating on lotus roots and failed to recognize the disaster caused by the floods. After the floods came the epidemics. The prefect of Azhou, despite knowing about the flood victims, concealed the truth and had the bodies hastily buried. During the early stages of the epidemic, he also concealed the situation. Time and again, disasters accumulated. In my previous life, the Lin family's merchant house was severely affected by the epidemic, suffering numerous casualties. They were suppressed by unscrupulous merchants hoarding medicinal herbs and eventually fell into decline. Upon hearing this from the magpie, I took it seriously, recalled the medicinal formulas and countermeasures from my previous life, compiled them into a book, and hoped to present it to the officials, submit it to the court, and draw the attention of relevant officials to prevent such a tragedy from recurring. Although the Great Prosperity dynasty valued commercial development, the feudal class system prevailed. And with no evidence to support the epidemic, no one dared to report it on my behalf. I had no choice but to secretly purchase medicinal herbs, buying them in batches from different regions to avoid drawing too much attention, which could lead to hoarding by merchants and panic among the people, disrupting their normal lives. It was during this time that Xia Jijun approached me. Xia Jijun was the daughter of the minister of the Imperial Secretariat, but her uncle was the chief physician of the Imperial Hospital. Xia Jijun had always been interested in pharmacology and had opened her own pharmacy. She had a keen intuition and noticed something amiss in the herbal medicine supplies. Through her investigations, she eventually traced the source back to me. She questioned me about the reason for purchasing the herbs. We exchanged information and, through our interactions, discovered that we could trust each other. I did not hide anything and shared my suspicions and preventive measures with her. I also wrote down the methods for preventing and treating the epidemic that I had memorized and showed them to Xia Jijun. Xia Jijun took the prescription to the Imperial Medical Academy, refined it, and developed a new formula. She also changed her explanation about the flood, warning Xia Shangshu. Xia Jijun and I felt like we had known each other for ages and grew even closer. She knew I was Lin Qingge's older sister and didn't suspect or scheme against me. She just felt sorry for me. To abandon an older sister who has done so much for you for such a man, it's truly unforgivable. On the surface, we had no contact. When Lin Qingge came to Fengxian, I would sit in the second-floor tea room with Xia Jijun, sipping tea. Upon learning of Lin Qingge's arrival, I would deliberately push Xia Jijun aside. The affair between Su Huyan and Lin Qingge had made Xia Jijun a laughingstock in the capital. It was our mutual understanding that we would make sure that Su Huyan and Lin Qingge would not be able to sleep day or night. Regretting their decision, Xia Jijun appeared like a savior and accompanied the Marquis's wife to the Marquis's residence. The gentle and considerate Xia Jijun was a thorn in the side of Lin Qingge and Su Huyan. Their love would come to an early end because of Xia Jijun's appearance. Lin Qingge is highly sensitive to changes in her feelings. As a woman, she is acutely aware of the way Su Huiyan looks at Xia Jijun. There is curiosity mingled with admiration in his gaze, the same way he once looked at her. She endures it all, watching Su Huiyan eagerly await Xia Jijun's arrival and discuss poetry and literature with her. Meanwhile, she was like a maid, serving tea and water by his side. Over time, Xia Jijun could barely stand it anymore. Looking at Su Huiyan's hypocritical face every day is driving me crazy. I advised her, if you're fed up, find an excuse to decline and avoid seeing him. After Xia Jijun stopped going to the Marquis's mansion, Su Huiyan missed her even more. Men are so pathetic. Every time he talked to Lin Qingge, the only girl in his eyes was that charming and lovely girl. Xia Jijun had a faint herbal scent that was soothing to the nose. But Lin Qingge had a sweet and cloying floral scent that was vulgar. Once, when he was drunk, Su Huiyan accidentally revealed his true feelings. Lin Qingge listened, her fingernails almost broken from biting them. But in the end, she pretended not to hear. Lin Qingge had been at the Marquis's residence for a year, but she still had no status. She knew clearly that if she quarreled with Su Huiyan and offended him, she would have no place at the Marquis's residence. She had to take drastic measures to make Su Huiyan marry her. Since his love had faded, she would use his weakness to hold him hostage. Lin Qingge waited and waited. And finally, the right moment arrived. It was a cold winter day, and the old lady of the Marquis's mansion unfortunately caught a cold. As the eldest son and grandson, Su Huiyan served her with filial piety, boiling medicine for her. One night, Su Huiyan was in a daze and added an excessive amount of aconite to the old lady's medicine. The excessive amount was poisonous. The Marquis's family did not notice. The next day, the old lady passed away. Lin Qingge took the medicine residue and used it to threaten Su Huiyan. 3 months after the old matriarch's death, Su Huiyan married Lin Qingge into the family. On their wedding night, there was no trace of the love they had once shared. Su Huiyan's former affection had vanished, replaced by hatred inch by inch. The once beautiful moments of their past had become a source of torment. On the day of their wedding, Su Huiyan wrote a letter to Xia Jijun. It was so sappy and romantic that it made one dizzy. Xia Jijun only read 2 lines before tossing it into the fire pit. Xia Jijun and I put on a show of saving each other in front of others, then began calling each other sisters and openly displaying affection. Xia Jijun came to the mansion more frequently. So frequently that some people were dissatisfied. Lin Qingge was unhappy and wrote a letter scolding me for being so close to her love rival. Su Huiyan was unhappy because Xia Jijun didn't visit me as often when she went to the Marquis's mansion. It was none of my business that they were unhappy. I just didn't expect Xia Xiqing to get so worked up about it. One day, he was sleeping and actually said in his sleep, "It's okay, Miss Xia. I have a good temper and won't disturb your love with Qinghuan." I was so scared that I immediately pinched his nose to wake him up. When Xia Xiqing woke up, his eyes were red, and he looked wronged. "Qinghuan, do you think I'm bothering you and Miss Xiao's love? I'll be more careful next time. Please don't chase me away." "Okay? Okay, my ass." To dispel Xia Xiqing's thoughts, I nearly broke my back over the next few days. In the winter, the cold made people's teeth chatter. Thinking of Lu Sun, I prepared 10 cartloads of cotton clothes and sent a caravan to the northern frontier. A few days ago, Lu Sun wrote a letter saying he was brave and skilled in battle, had killed many enemy soldiers, and had been promoted to general. I was thinking about what to write in the family letter when suddenly everything went black, and I fainted. I thought it was from overwork. By the bedside, Xia Xiqing stared blankly at my stomach. I was pregnant. Thinking of the cute and obedient little one, I couldn't help but feel excited. Little one. Don't worry. This mother will clear away all obstacles in this lifetime. As I was thinking, I heard Xia Xiqing say, Wife. The doctor said that Chinga had a miscarriage. Should we send some tonics over? Miscarriage? I heard it was in the first 2 months. Her pulse was unstable and she had a miscarriage. That was just what he heard. The truth was that Lin Chinga was pregnant and couldn't serve Su Huyan. The Marquis's wife took the opportunity to get Su Huyan drunk and pushed her maid towards him. Su Huyan didn't refuse. While the two were doing their business, Lin Chinga returned. She beat the maid like a madwoman. Because of the incident with the old lady of the Marquis's mansion, Su Huyan had long been annoyed with Lin Chinga. So he protected the maid and pushed Lin Chinga away. Lin Chinga's stomach hit the corner of the table, and she lost the baby that day. No need to send any tonics. Just give the doctor some silver and tell him to save Lin Chinga's life if anything happens. Childbirth has always been a perilous ordeal for women. I feared Su Huyan would use this opportunity to harm her further. It wasn't out of pity for Lin Chinga. I merely wanted her to experience the agony of being betrayed and targeted by those closest to her. As I had anticipated. Someone had added an excessive amount of red flour to Lin Chinga's medicinal soup. Safflower promotes blood circulation and removes blood stasis. After drinking the medicine, Lin Chinga's bleeding wouldn't stop, and she nearly lost her life. Fortunately, the doctor used golden needles to stimulate her acupoints and pulled Lin Chinga back from the brink of death. However, this time, the damage was irreparable. Lin Chinga's life was saved, but she could no longer conceive. Seeing this, the Marquis's wife incited Su Huyan to demote his wife to a concubine. If the old lady were still alive, she would never have allowed Su Huyan to act so recklessly. Lin Chinga had an accident and miscarried because she wanted to have a child for Su Huyan, but she was demoted to concubine before she had even finished her confinement. If word got out, who would dare to marry their daughter to him? Unfortunately, the people of the Marquis's mansion were short-sighted and only cared about immediate gains and losses. After her miscarriage, Lin Chinga was sent to a remote room. The maids and servants who once served her now turned against her, humiliating her. Everything she brought from the Lin family was seized and divided among them. The following spring, the epidemic that had been delayed for a year broke out. Although Minister Xia Shang listened to Xia Jijun's advice and sent an investigation to Azhou, punishing those responsible, the magistrate of Tongzhou, a county hundreds of miles away from Azhou, harbored hopes of escaping blame. Fortunately, the Imperial Medical Academy had already prepared preventive remedies, so the situation in the capital was under control. However, those outside the capital were not so fortunate. Some took advantage of the situation to amass wealth, monopolizing the most crucial epidemic-fighting herb, ma huang, in an attempt to make illicit profits. Within the capital, all was peaceful and orderly. Outside the capital, the people were struggling to survive. The emperor was furious, but there were always people who cared more about money than their lives and resorted to dirty tricks. For example, Su Huyan. After the old lady passed away, there was little left of her dowry, and the large Marquis family had no choice but to live frugally. In order to save money, Su Huyan stopped hanging out with his group of friends. Over time, his friends noticed something was amiss. They arranged a banquet to entertain Su Huyan and presented him with ideas for making money. What if we're caught trafficking ephedra? If you don't say anything, neither will I. Besides, you're a marquis, who dares touch you? Persuaded by their words, Su Huyan made up his mind. However, the marquis's treasury was empty, and he didn't even have the capital to stockpile ephedra. You don't have any. But what about your pampered concubine? She's the second daughter of the Lin merchant family. Under the instigation of outsiders, Su Huyan bowed his head and asked Lin Chinga to forgive him. He was tender and affectionate towards her, acting as if they were lovers. 3 days later, Shuangwen revealed his true intentions. If I had money, would I have been driven here by you? To be tormented by maids? The words his friends had taught him. Shuangwen repeated verbatim to Lin Qingge. 3 days later, I was dragged to court by Lin Qingge's lawsuit. In court, Lin Qingge accused me of oppressing my legitimate sister and embezzling family assets. She claimed that when my parents were alive, they had left behind a box of priceless pearls. Eldest sister, now that I am married, when will you return the 6 pearls you owe me? I brought my parents' spirit tablets to the court today so that they could see what kind of heartless and ungrateful person the Lin Qingge they once pampered was. I produced the ledger and presented all the expenses incurred over the years for taking care of Lin Qingge, treating her illnesses, and purchasing clothes and jewelry for her. The pearls your parents gave you, I can give them to you. But what about the kindness I showed you over the years? The 10,000 taels of silver I spent on you? How will you repay me? Lin Qingge bit her lip and remained silent. She knew very well that she couldn't repay the money. Not only could she not come up with it, but those things had long since been added to the Marquis's wife's private account. But no matter how reasonable I was, no matter how I argued, the official presiding over the court still sided with Lin Qingge. There was no other reason. Because Lin Qingge represented the Marquis, Shuangwen couldn't afford to offend him. Here are the 6 Eastern pearls. From now on, you and I are like this jade bracelet. From now on, we are no longer sisters. We have no connection, not even in life or death. I reached out and shattered the jade bracelet on my wrist. It was a birthday gift Lin Qingge had bought for me with her New Year's money when she was 6 years old. One for her, one for me. Lin Qingge won the case, but she sat on the ground in the courtroom, picking up the broken pieces of the jade bracelet, sobbing uncontrollably. 5 days later, Xia Jijun, who had accompanied the Minister of the Interior on a private visit, heard about this and was furious. If I had known about this, I would have never gone with my father to see the medicine. Those Eastern pearls were wasted. A waste? I don't think so. Lin Qingge's outburst was just what we needed. Now everyone knows that she and I are no longer connected. I had already asked someone to keep an eye on Shuangwen's every move. On the day he was dining with his friends, someone recorded everything that happened and handed it to me. 6 pearls bought the lives of the Marquis's family. It was worth it. Once the pearls were in his hands, Shuangwen immediately stockpiled 3,000 pounds of ephedra. Due to the epidemic, the price of ephedra skyrocketed. The day after Shuangwen stockpiled it, the price soared to 6 taels of silver. The common people were crying out in despair. But Shuangwen was ecstatic. He planned to wait for the price of ephedra to rise further, aiming to sell it when it reached 10 taels of silver. Shuangwen made his first fortune through this scheme. The money came too quickly, and Shuangwen grew arrogant, stockpiling another 2,000 pounds of ma huang. The price was the same as before, but this time he mixed in half as much counterfeit medicine. Buying and selling again. The money came too easily. Fortunately, Xia Jijun brought a team of doctors to the epidemic-stricken areas for free medical treatment. All epidemic patients received their medications at an 80% discount. The medicines used by Xia Jijun were naturally funded by the Lin family merchant house. Every time she arrived in an area, she left behind a banner of the Lin family, with Xia Shangshu presenting his strategy to the emperor and Xia Jijun personally examining the patients. The prolonged epidemic was brought to an end in less than half a year. The people celebrated joyfully, and the emperor issued a special edict to commend Xia Jijun as the Lady of Anning County and granted her a county mansion. Before entering the palace to audience with the emperor, Xia Jijun mentioned my contributions in front of him. The emperor was overjoyed and granted the Lin family merchant house the status of imperial merchant, along with a reward of 10,000 taels of silver. Those who deserved rewards were rewarded, and those who deserved punishment were punished. Xia Shangshu took the opportunity to report to the emperor the names of merchants who had hoarded goods during the epidemic and officials who had taken advantage of the situation for personal gain. Su Huiyan was among them, out of consideration for the fact that the Yong'an Marquis and his other sons had died in battle, leaving only Su Huiyan as the sole heir. The emperor spared him from the death penalty. While the death penalty was commuted, he was not spared from punishment. An imperial edict was issued, and all the marquis's property was confiscated by the state. The marquis's relatives were exiled to the cold and harsh northern border. While the officials were confiscating the property, Lin Chinga took advantage of the chaos and hid an eastern pearl. The marquis's wife couldn't breathe and went mad. Lin Chinga clapped her hands and cheered. No one knew that it was Lin Chinga who reported Su Huiyan's collusion with merchants. No one knew why she did it. On the day the marquis's family was confiscated and his relatives were exiled, the army returned from a great victory and returned to the capital. The two groups collided head-on. The personal guards leading the group bowed and stepped aside. Lu Xun rode a tall horse, his armor gleaming in the sunlight. I've never seen such a handsome young general. The young general is so full of vigor, I wonder which lucky girl he'll end up marrying. Lin Chinga heard the shy words of the woman beside her and suddenly looked up, locking eyes with the man. Somehow, Lu Xun also looked up. Their eyes met, but Lu Xun's eyes were calm and expressionless. Lin Chinga's gaze shrank, and she lowered her head, no longer looking at him. The deputy general asked Lu Xun, "Did you meet someone you know, General?" Lu Xun waved his hand. "I don't think so. Tell the troops to hurry up. It's been 4 years since I last saw my older sister." When Lu Xun returned to the mansion, Nan Nan was just 2 years old, bold and fearless, unafraid of Lu Xun's menacing aura. She called out softly, "Uncle!" The next time he heard news of Lin Chinga was half a year later. It was reported that the escort team transporting Lin Chinga had encountered a group of brutal bandits on the road. These bandits were ruthless and took pleasure in torturing people. The marquis's wife, Lin Chinga, and even Su Huiyan fell into their hands. In order to save their lives, the marquis's wife and Su Huiyan turned on each other and pointed the finger at Lin Chinga, saying that she had hidden a priceless pearl. Fearing that others would fight over it, Lin Chinga swallowed the pearl. The bandits cut open her stomach to get the pearl. Su Huiyan and the marquis's wife were hacked to death, their bodies left in pieces. The emperor was furious and sent Lu Xun to capture the bandits. Once captured, they were to be executed immediately without returning to the capital to report. Lin Chinga's body was eaten by wild dogs and could not be found. I asked Lu Xun to pick a peach blossom branch from the path where Lin Chinga had passed. I brought it back to the Lin mansion and planted it in the garden. The peach tree grew lush and vibrant, with blossoms in full bloom, but it never bore fruit. One day, Nan Nan, still half asleep, jumped over to me. "Mother, I dreamed of a beautiful aunt who said she was wrong and told me to give this to you." Nan Nan spread her palm, and a round pearl lay there. It was the very same pearl that Lin Chinga had taken during the raid. The next day after Nan Nan spoke, the peach tree suddenly bore fruit. But the following year, the branches withered, and there was no more fruit. End of the story.